I want to get in. I feel like we need to talk about what tonal is using AI and the difference of that process versus just lifting some barbells or going to the gym, because the way it adjusts to your body personally is going to be different than someone else, and how it knows to help you not get injured, to help you stress your muscles just enough to, keep you accountable. There's all of these things that the AI part of it comes in, which is so exciting because I'm a self starter. I'll go work out regardless. But there are days where I'm like, I don't know. Should I do another one? Am I at failure yet? Meh, bleh, I don't know. And there's days where I'm much better at it. But when you've got accountability, when you've got that big brother thinking, behind you, telling you, showing you how to do more for you. It's just really exciting. So let's get into exactly what tonal is and the AI aspect of it.
Yeah. So let's take the fitness journey, and for someone that's maybe starting out in terms of that, like, and particularly let's say it's a 40-year-old or older female that hasn't resistance trained before, right? Number one, I've got to find the time to start exercising, and finding time to get to the gym. Like, hey, I'm 100%. Any exercise that you do is good exercise. Cardio, resistance training at the gym on toner. I just want you exercising. That's number one kind of thing. But finding time and big windows of time is often challenging. Certainly for that population, certainly maybe if you're slightly younger with young kids too. But you don't free up time even when you find that job gets busier. Actually, teenagers require more driving and all these other things. So, but number one, you have to find the time. But working out in your home can be a way of time saving just because you don't have to leave. Number one. Number two, there's no waiting for any equipment. There's no waiting for, this is like, I can only go to the gym at Monday nights at 6 o'clock. Well, good luck just walking around the gym, particularly in something like January. In December, maybe you can, but in January, you're going to be waiting. So there's no waiting. Number three, it's an entire gym in that you can do 250 plus different movements: deadlifting, squatting, pushing, pulling, flies, barbell exercises, rope exercises, handle exercises. So you've got this very vast library of things. So like there's a time element and sort of just ease of use there. Number two, you go there and number one, you don't know what to do, right? If you haven't exercised before and you're not things, I don't know what I should do. I could hire a personal trainer, and that's a good option. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. You can hire a personal trainer, but the relatively per hour cost is quite expensive. And so Tonal has 300 programs, 5,000 plus workouts, and adding every single day to it, designed for your level and your goal. You tell us what you're trying to achieve. And yeah, it might be lose a bit of weight, build a bit of muscle, but it might be something like, hey, I want to work on my functional strength or my movement quality, or I want to work on this very specific, and we have programs and goals for that. And then, I'm a first timer. I've never worked out before. I need to have something for that. We'll give you more basic exercises. You tell me you're advanced and you want to build muscle and you want to compete for the next Olympia, then we can kind of, give you programs that are going to be more complex and larger in volume. You can tell us how long you want to work out, and then we can modify. Okay, you only have 15 minutes a day. We have quick fits. They're just designed. They're 15 minutes in and out. We have something called 20 and 20s, 20 days for 20 minutes a day. So you can just do these short exercises, and we can set. So we can tell you and help you. You tell us what you're trying to achieve, and we can give you options around what you can do. Number three would be, well, I don't know what weight to use and I don't want to hurt myself. That's a very common one, particularly I think with this population. So we do a strength assessment at the first, as you first get Tonal. It's very safe. It's a progressive weight mode. So it starts extremely light and it gets a little bit heavier. And if you continue to move with good speed, we'll increase it a little more and a little more and a little more. But if you can't, then we'll just decrease the weight immediately. So we can manipulate the weight with AI in real time. We can monitor that velocity. So that allows us we do 4 movements, takes about 2 minutes, and we can calibrate every one of those 250 moves with the right weight for you. So you'll never, I'm doing 15 reps for this exercise. I don't know what weight I should use. Tonal can suggest it for you. You can override it. Hey, I want to increase or decrease. Hey, today I'm feeling a bit tired. I'm going to hit recovery mode and it will reduce the weights by 80%. or 20% to 80%. So you can take it easy and have a day. We also have an AI algorithm that we know that the concept of progressive overload, right? If I do the same thing and I do it forever, I get better for a little bit, but then I plateau, right? I have to continually tax the body. We have an AI algorithm that progressively overloads. So starts you at the right weight. And as you tell and show tonal you get stronger, it increases the weight just a little bit each workout for you. So you stay on this optimal path for development. So I think those are some of the ways, particularly with that population, that, hey, we're trying to make it really time convenient. B, we're trying to give you options around what to do so you don't feel, intimidated or lost. And number three, we want to keep you in a weight ranges that are going to be safe for you. And in addition to the weight, we have a bunch of form feedback and cueing, coaching cues. We can see the cables move. We know whether it's jerky. You can set up your mobile phone and we get a video overlay. So we can tell you, hey, your squat's not looking quite great. You should try this. And so we try and keep it safe. So those are sort of three of the ways I think we really try to lean into lowering the barrier to make this easier.
My goodness. I mean, a trainer costs at least $100 per session, and this is a subscription of 60 a month. Is that correct?
$60 a month, yeah.
And the value is so much more than a personal trainer, unless you just like to visit with that person. Go have coffee with them, once a month instead. But right, the convenience, just for me, like I do most of my workouts in my house, in my gym, in my garage. But I'll go to a strength yoga class a couple times a week. Today, I was short on time. It takes 15 minutes to get there. You need to get there 15 minutes before the class starts. It takes 15 minutes to drive home. That's 45 minutes of my day that I don't have. And that's huge. And people are also working at home. Like we talked about, they've got young kids, or maybe they're coming home from school at noon, and then you've got to do carpool and all of this, and it's fitting it in. And just seeing it, knowing it's there, I don't necessarily have to get into my gym clothes to go do a 10-minute workout and then a 10-minute one later. Or the fact
We
that
have an entire face group, I think, is posted to like working out in their pajamas pretty much. There's chains of people. Does anyone else not wear shoes? Yeah, everyone.
exactly, the ease of it, and then the pain and the injury prevention. I think women and men, and I have this conversation with my husband a lot. He goes to the gym and he'll talk to people that are only doing cardio, men that are, in their 50s, because they're afraid to injure themselves. And if you don't have the muscle, you're going to increase your risk for injury. It's this vicious cycle, right?
Yeah. You talked around the concept of frailty before, right? And that's directly related to muscle mass and strength. One of the leading causes of death over the age of 65 is falls.
Yeah.
I think 25% of people that fall and fracture a bone over the age of 65 pass away within a couple of years or something like
Yeah.
that, right? And that's our ability. Like we can't, mitigate all falls. We can't prevent all falls. There are things happen, but we can certainly reduce the likelihood of them.
Right.
If you have the strength to withstand your body weight and apply that force quickly, when you fall off the curb, the step, you get knocked by the dog, whatever it is, you have the strength to react, right? To rebound, to do that. So number one, you're less likely to have a lot of those injuries that are related. Number two, if you do have those injuries, what we see in the data is, and I think most people are probably, listening to this podcast aware that, right, we tend to increase our strength in our, from childhood into our 20s. We may maintain it into our 30s, and then we start this slow and steady decline until our 60s or 70s, and then it's this sharper drop off. That's typically, if you look at 1,000 people, that's what it would show. But actually, if you look at individual data, it's a much more step change. It's like, I was doing okay, and then I got hurt, and I dropped a big chunk. And then I was doing okay, and I dropped a big chunk, and I got and I do these like step changes. What we find is if people do strength training, we build extra capacity. We may reduce the chances of those step changes happening, but when they happen, we start from a higher level. So we don't have this great change in our lifestyle of what we can do just because I got hurt. I can come back quicker. Muscle memory, almost, in this idea that it's easier to rebuild muscle than it is to build muscle and strength for the first time. And number two, I'm starting from a much higher baseline. So if I lost 20% of my strength because I broke my leg skiing, that sucks, and that won't be good, and I should try and build it back. but I'd much rather have 20% to lose before I can't walk up the stairs, rather than that 20% being, well, I can walk up the stairs, but if I get hurt, now I can't, and I have to try and get back to that for the very first time. So I think, yeah, concepts of injury mitigation and then recovery from injury become super important.
My mom, 80 years old, last summer fell off a horse and she broke her pelvis and she was put on pain medication. And then, of course, the pain medication caused liver issues. And then she had to get put on liver medication. And she was afraid. My mom was this active woman that was always the last person on the dance floor at a party to this frail, she literally shrunk and in front of my eyes. And became very frail and scared to move and didn't want to go out. And I'm thinking, this is the statistic. Within a year, she's older than 65. The statistic is that she has less than a year to live. And in my mind, I'm preparing myself for this as the daughter. And it was really tough to watch, especially with the industry I'm in, because she wasn't listening to everything I wanted her to do. But what I saw in her was that finally someone said something to her about, getting back to life. And she works out with a trainer. She is off all the medication and she's moving her body every day. And she did a turnaround, thank God.
Yeah.
But it was so crazy to watch this in front of my eyes, how quickly the body can just deteriorate. Because here you are, you go from moving, which increases circulation, increases the blood flow to the brain, helps with digestion, mood, all of these other things no one's talking about, and to being sedentary, to being in bed, and there's no circulation and there's no force to help with the bone density, right? There's no circulation to the brain. So she was depressed. My mom is the last person to be depressed, and she said, Sarah, I think I'm depressed. So there were all of these things. The domino effects of health just went down. And it's not just about looking good with the muscles.
I'd actually say that's one of the least like valuable things of that. I think that's where strength training is why I got into strength training as a teenage boy, and kind of it was for the aesthetics. But I think for the older population, and not even necessarily the oldest, but any one population, the benefits are far outweigh just the aesthetic ones, or they're not the most important. And I think it's important. I try to think of like strength training and cardiovascular training, to be honest, much like retirement savings. You always want to start earlier, right? It would have been better if I'd started saving by retiring, did my 401k when I was 19. I didn't, hopefully I started when I'm 30, and you try and catch up and you try and invest. And if I hadn't started, then it would have been better to start at 40 than 30 and 50 rather than 40. You're better to start sometime. And much like retirement, so exercise is very similar. You'd rather, build this big bank of exercise history. But much like retirement, it's never too late. We actually, research is very clear in all populations, males and females, we can build muscle mass and definitely strength and power in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. We can build strength, muscle mass, maybe harder, but we probably can. Like, it's never too late. Yes, we want you to start earlier. And you are going to be in a much better place, much like a retirement, if you do start earlier. But if you're like your mum, 80 years old, and kind of, had a fall and thing, you can still make massive changes. I would implore you not to wait that long. That's not the best case scenario. Those statistics do exist for a reason, but you can. And so if you're out there listening to this, and maybe you have got hurt, or maybe you are, I'm 70, can I really start now? Yes, you can. You can start with sit to stand. Find a chair, sit to stand, try and do it 10 times. Okay, how long did that take you? Was it more than 30 seconds? Try and make it less than 30 seconds. Can we increase it to 15? Can you, go off a slightly lower chair? And, you can start really small and have impact. Now we need to progress that over time and make it more challenging over time. But the exercise you do is the exercise that is best for you. And start there if you're doing nothing else, and then build up. And it doesn't happen overnight. We do need consistency, but it doesn't take years. You can see noticeable changes in weeks, maybe not physically in terms of aesthetics, but you'll see changes in your ability to stand up. You do that for a couple of weeks, you'll be better at standing up. I guarantee it. My mum does this. She's in her 70s, and I encourage her. And like, I was just back in England last week, and we're like, well, we did it every morning and every evening. We do 15 sit to stands just as a start. And even being there a week, she was better at the end than she was at the start. So I would encourage everyone to start somewhere, and then move from there.